Which one of these shirts is the most expensive? The one with the big Dior logo, right? I lied to you. Actually, this polo here is from Loro Piana and it costs over 3,000 euros. Yes, today some luxury brands hide their logo on purpose to sell at even higher prices. It's the latest in a long list of manipulation techniques that luxury brands use to hack your brain and control your desires. In this video, we'll examine the 7 psychological tactics used by luxury giants to scam you and make billions in the process. Did you know luxury brands can charge 10 times more for the exact same product just by changing where it's presented? It's insane. Let me explain. Payless, a discount shoe store in the United States, once created a fake luxury boutique. Beautiful design, Italian name, high-end space in Los Angeles. They invited dozens of influencers for the launch of a new designer. The trick? The shoes they are presenting usually cost $20, but they changed the price to $400. And the crazy part? These influencers, who supposedly know all about the fashion world, rushed to buy them, thinking that they were luxury items. That's why nothing in luxury boutiques is left to chance. If you've ever visited a luxury store, you'll probably noticed that they're not shops, they're galleries. Enormous spaces, few products, many sales assistants who talk to you as if they're presenting a work of art. It smells good, the architecture is refined. Because just like these influencers, you'll automatically be willing to pay more if products are presented in the right way, regardless of their actual quality. Luxury brands have realized that the customer is not always right. In fact, it's better to treat him like garbage. This is called the pretty woman effect. Let me explain. A few years ago, when I started having my first business successes, I was traveling in Barcelona and I decided to visit a Gucci store for the first time. I spotted a beautiful bag, but I couldn't find any sales assistant. After waiting, I finally found one in the next room, but he completely ignored me. When I finally asked for help, he looked at me disdainfully and said, "Yeah, I can show you, but you won't buy it anyway." At the time, I got angry and I was like, "Bro, I will buy it. Trust me." He gave me the bag, I tried it on, liked it, and went to the register. But seconds before paying, I realized something. I thought I was winning by buying the bag, but actually, he was winning. I was gonna lose my money and he was going to make money on the commission. And then it struck me. Being unpleasant and treating me like a nobody was actually a sales technique. He knew perfectly well that he would touch my ego and that I would buy the bag just to prove that I could afford it. This is the pretty woman effect. Because one of the most famous scenes from the movie is when Julia Roberts returned to the luxury boutique wearing brand name clothes she can finally afford to prove that she succeeded. This resonates with many people, especially those who grew up in modest families without much money. We all want our pretty woman moment where we can prove that we've made it. And luxury brands understood this perfectly, which is why they apparently ask for half of their staff to be unpleasant to customers on purpose. One of the best sales strategy of all time is to tell customers all the reason they shouldn't buy. It's counterintuitive, but it works brilliantly. A few years ago, I wanted to buy a marketing course from one of the best e-commerce entrepreneur in the US. And during our call, after asking me a few questions, this guy is like, "Actually, I don't think the course is for you. It won't work in France. Like, it's more for the American market, so not adapted for you, sorry. Are you sure you want to buy it?" And then for several minutes, I tried to explain that I had international brands, the US marketing strategy usually also work in Europe, but he wasn't really convinced. And like by the end of the call, he was like, "I wouldn't advise you to buy, but if you're really sure about it, I can give you a link and you can try the program." And yeah, I asked for the link, I bought the program, which was actually pretty good. And inside the program, one of the lessons was about anti-selling, which is precisely this technique of reversing the trend where you basically make the customer convince you that they are the right person to buy the product instead of giving all of the reason that they should buy. I had fallen for it. He used this technique on me, it worked. And the same stuff works every single day in thousands of boutiques across the world for luxury brands. This is the reason why if you want to buy a Birkin bag from Hermes that costs thousands of dollars, you must first get on a waiting list. You need to schedule appointments with sellers, explain who you are, what are your values, and why you deserve the right to buy the next Birkin. Same thing goes for Rolex, Patek Philippe, and other luxury brands. They do exactly the same thing because this is a way to hack the human brain. If we can't buy something, we automatically want it 10 times more. And often when we are put in a position where we need to convince someone, we actually forget that we were the one who needed convincing in the first place. Did you know that luxury brands burn thousands of products every year and that it actually helps their business? Years ago, big outlets started to sell luxury goods at a discount. You could find a bunch of large stores outside of city where you could buy unsold luxury item at a discounted price. People willing to go to these places and buy last year's collection could get them at a cheaper price. And it worked very well, but there was one problem. These outlets were the death blow for certain major brands like Lacoste, because they discounted their products so much that the middle and lower classes started buying them in large quantity. As a result, when you think about Lacoste, you don't think about some rich guy playing polo or playing Go. This is a problem for them. This drastically changed their brand image and they lost their original clientele. That's why now, to avoid this fate, the biggest luxury houses decided to systematically destroy unsold items rather than to sell them at a discount. But this hasn't stopped the middle class, who increasingly want luxury items. People are willing to save for months just to buy a Gucci or Louis Vuitton t-shirt. Did you know that now the main target for brands like Gucci or Louis Vuitton is not the rich, but people with less money? LVMH, the company of Bernard Arnault, one of the richest guys in the world, noticed that the middle class increasingly wanted to look like the rich and that they were buying Louis Vuitton, Dior en masse. At first, they tried to fight it, but they quickly realized that it was too complicated. That's when they came up with the genius move. They decided to sacrifice some of their brands and direct their marketing towards this new clientele. They started producing in larger quantities and changed their marketing message to reach the mainstream population. That's why today, for the truly wealthy, wearing a Dior t-shirt with a huge logo isn't a sign of luxury. It's like wearing a poor people's uniform. The rich have fled to other brands that constitute a new category, the quiet luxury. These brands include names like Loro Piana, Brunello Cucinelli, Zegna, and many others. They are much more discreet, rarely show their logos, and yet they cost even more than Louis Vuitton, Gucci, or Dior. While the middle class goes into debt to show off logos and feel rich, the truly wealthy no longer sees this as a symbol of wealth, but as a genuine uniform of the poor. These discreet luxury brands allow the rich to continue buying luxury without wearing the same clothes as the middle class. And the owner of the luxury brands can now make even more money because they sell to almost everyone. Would you believe that the most successful luxury brands actually are not the one with the best product quality? It's surprising, but it's true. Let me explain. To understand, we need to examine major changes in the luxury universe over recent years. Initially, luxury revolved around craftsmanship, family houses trying to make the best product. Then, one by one, these brands were bought by large conglomerates like LVMH or Kering. These groups quickly realized that marketing was more important than product quality. Back then, when a luxury brand was selling a luggage for $1,000, $600 would go to production cost, $100 to marketing, and they would get $300 in profit, for example. But gradually, the amount they spent on product started to shrink, and the amount they spent on marketing started to increase. Because the more they spend on marketing, the more money they make. And that's why today, you can buy Gucci t-shirt that cost 500 euros but are lower quality than what you can get at H&M or Zara. That's because all the money was spent on marketing, celebrity partnership, fashion shows, advertising, etc., etc., and nothing was left for the product. Today, some luxury bags that cost $3,000 are actually made for less than $100. Welcome to the world of the new luxury. Brands use this little trick. They order the different parts in China and they just assemble the end product in Europe so that they can claim it was made in Italy, for example. Did you know that the obsession of brands like Hermes today is to transform themselves into Bitcoin? I know, it doesn't make sense, but it's really happening. During the COVID crisis, the price of most luxury items exploded, causing many people to invest in them. There are now literally apps that help you track the price evolution of luxury goods. Luxury brands immediately understood that one of the best sales arguments they could use was telling you you'd make money by buying from them. That's why we hear more and more stories about handbags bought for 1,000 euros now being worth 7,000. Watches that cost $20,000 being sold for 60, etc. Shirts, coats, caps, and even shoes that appreciated a lot over time. But the reality is quite different. Even if some of these items increase in value, it's not the case for all of them. The prices fluctuate a lot and they are highly dependent on the state of the product. They have scuffs, stains, the resale value plummets. So if your goal is really to invest, you should not be wearing them. And actually, on average, it's more interesting and safer to invest in stocks. So my advice is to buy these items if you really like them and to wear them because that's what they're made for. If they increase in value, that's a bonus, but it shouldn't be the reason you're buying. That's personally what I do with my watch collection. Yes, I made money buying these watches, but that's not why I bought them. I do it because I love watches. And saying luxury items are an investment is mostly a big excuse from people who want to buy, but know they shouldn't. How much do you think this watch costs? I'll give you some clues. It was hand assembled in Switzerland, representing craftsmanship refined over more than a century. It's a legendary, ultra exclusive edition, and it's been worn by people like Idris Elba and George Clooney. To buy it, you need to be extremely well connected and already have a relationship with the brand. What do you think? $10,000, $20,000, maybe even $50,000? This watch would cost $200 or $300. I haven't mentioned a single technical characteristic that would justify prices like that. I didn't talk about its precision, about the fact that it was water resistant, that it used noble materials, or that it was an automatic watch. But you still imagine that the price was outrageous. Why? Because in luxury, what matters is the story. It's the product history, not its technical characteristic. Knowing how to tell a product story is the art of storytelling, one of the most used techniques in the luxury world. Each item has a story, a distant origin, a mystery that enhances desires. Luxury brands will use this as much as possible, even creating famous storytelling from scratch if necessary. Ralph Lauren, for example, when you hear about it, you think about a European brand with hundreds of years of history, but in reality it was created in 1967 in the US, in the Bronx, by a Jewish guy. His original name was Ralph Lifshitz, and he decided to change his name to make it sound more American. He changed his name, but he also changed the perception of his brand because he knew that was the best way to increase sales. Brands used to be about craftsmanship, about product, but now they've changed. They've become marketing monsters, and they are experts to make you desire their products. My goal today isn't to denounce luxury brands, because in reality, if we buy a shirt, it's not because we need the best material. It's because we want to feel something when we wear it. And the only reason you feel confident, you feel good with your new clothes is because these brands are so good at marketing. Of course, it doesn't justify lying or having products of bad quality. There is still a few brands that actually have exceptional product quality. If you like this video, here is a video YouTube thinks you would like as well. Click on it, and I talk to you in a few seconds.